Good afternoon. This is Chair Brian Haggerty with the El Paso Community College, inviting everybody or saying hello to everyone who would like to join our Facilities and Finance Committee meeting that is scheduled for December 1st, 2020 at 4 p.m. Teleconference audio can be accessed by dialing toll-free number 1-844-621-3956 and enter the access code 120-078-2651 to access the video. Any questions for the board can be sent to an email address boardquestions@epcc.edu. I'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting. Pam, can you take a roll call of the board, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Uxer.
Present.
Ms. Sanchez.
Here.
Mrs. Robles.
Present.
Dr. Graham. Dr. Graham, I can see you. Dr. Graham, can you hear us? Ms. Nahida.
Here.
Ms. Pena.
Yes, ma'am. Hello, everyone.
And Mr. Haggerty.
Present. Pam, do we have any public comment?
We have not received any at this point.
Okay. All right. We're going to move down to number 5, discussion items. Can you read 5.1, Pam?
Item 5.1, Mr. Paulo Perez, Program Manager of ECM, will provide an update briefing on the progress of the Combined Fee Revenue Improvement Bond Series 2016 program. The briefing items will include, but are not limited to, a general update including schedule and budget for all 6 projects, as well as an overall bond schedule and budget update.
Okay, Mr. Pettis, are you on the line?
Yes, sir.
All right, you're on the floor here.
All right. Can you all see the screen? All right, well, I'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, Dr. Serrata, board members, Chair Haggerty, whoever is tuning in to listen and watch this presentation. I hope everyone had a very pleasant and safe Thanksgiving. Before we start with the project updates, I'd like to give you a quick update as it regards the COVID-19 impact on the 2 remaining projects. There is one item that, hello? There is one item common to both the Rio Grande and Valle Verde projects, and it is the current unwillingness of our out-of-town consultants and contractors to come to El Paso due to the current critical condition in the city and the high number of COVID cases. Just within the last 2 weeks, we received notification at Rio Grande that one of the architect's consultants is leery of coming to do their field inspections and stated that they would like to wait until the situation gets better in El Paso. Also, at Valle Verde, we had one mechanical subcontractor that communicated to HB Construction that they're not comfortable sending personnel to El Paso until the rates of infection in El Paso drop. And also another subcontractor has informed HB that their personnel from outside the El Paso area are not wanting to travel to El Paso because of the high infection rate. So this has had an unintended consequence of the high infection rate that we have currently in El Paso. Another impacted area by COVID is also worker availability. Several local contractors have considerably reduced their staffing at projects. And from what I'm being told, also not only EPCC projects, but all other projects citywide. And that's due to their own personnel being affected by the COVID virus, therefore limiting the availability of the manpower. The contractors continues to warn us, particularly at Rio Grande, that delays within the supply chain for materials are possible due to the COVID crisis nationwide, and any significant delay to the delivery of equipment or building materials could negatively impact the schedule. As you can understand, all these issues are impossible to forecast because we simply have no control over the situation and who gets sick and who doesn't. Ultimately, the safety of each child site is the paramount, and everyone is working together to achieve this goal. Now, on a brighter note, I'll move on to the mission, which is completed. Although, for the sake of full disclosure, there's still some work going on for some additional change orders that came up after substantial completion, but it's basically, I mean, if you go there, it looks great. I can't wait for y'all to see it. The contractor, Flintco, hired a professional photographer to take pictures of the project, and they were kind enough to give 50 copies to the college. And these are the pictures, and I thought that maybe y'all would enjoy to see them because they are very good pictures. That was the main entrance. This is another angle from the main entrance, looking towards the west. This is the main entrance once we pass the arcade. This is an aerial view that covers the rear part of the building. As you can tell, there's in these areas you can actually see the tables right there. Also, oh, I'm sorry. For some reason, I got. Yeah. So this is one inside. This is in the first floor, the nooks, where the students will be gathering. This is on the second floor, and it's an area for the students to hang out. And you can see the distance. You can see a small conference room that's pretty predominant here in the building in the main lobby. This is the one of the classrooms in the second floor. This is the large conference room, the flexitorium where all these, and I think I've shown you some pictures before with this all open and all closed. It automatically opens and closes as needed. This is the small conference room in the first floor by the lobby. This is the jump facility, the jump area with the faculty. And that's some small conference rooms, and this is kind of a kitchen area for them. There's some lockers as well. Here's another view of the main lobby. As you can tell, it's gorgeous. And it's fantastic. And one thing that he hadn't seen before that they still needed to add was these rails here, these wood rails on top of the guardrails that really add up to the look of the building. This is the rear part in the evening with the lights on. You can see it's fantastic. It really looks good. And also during the day, here's another view of the same area. This is a wide angle shot. And again, these were great pictures, and I'm glad that Flintco was able to give them to the college. Going on to Rio Grande, you can tell here's a view from the corner of Montana and Oregon, looking towards northeast. You can tell we're doing good progress. You can see the crane is still there, but the view won't be much longer before the crane goes away. This is on the left side. It's you can see I'm painting the columns in the garage. On the right side, you have a view of the roof, and the roof is about 85% complete. The only area we're really missing is this area back here. You can tell where it's gray. The white is all the roof. There's a little parapet work missing there. But in general, all the air handling units, the chillers, all that is already on top of the roof. So it's looking pretty good and good progress. Here on this picture on the left side is on the 6th floor, and as you can tell, there's a lot of mechanical work already done. There's also sheetrock that's been done. On the right side is a little bit behind the 6th floor. It's on the 7th floor. You can tell it's moving along pretty well too. You can see all the mechanical also in place. So to date, the anticipated substantial completion date remains what I told you last week, March 29, 2021. Of course, again, here comes the caveat that they will have to provide the right amount of manpower to keep up with the schedule. And so far, they seem to be doing good, although we probably could use more finishers. And so probably in January or maybe even February, probably January, I'll be able to give you a little more accurate definition, depending on what the contractor will provide in terms of manpower. But we're keeping an eye on the schedule in the meantime. So all 3 elevators are got complete. The CMU's elevator enclosure is complete, and they're almost done with the painting for the parking garage, the interior. So this is basically the same slide from last time. It just shows you the meeting on the 1st today, and no changes, to what I told you at the last meeting. This is the billings, and you can tell they're catching up. It's certainly they're starting to go the right direction here. And on the Escort, same thing there. There's a progress. As long as they can keep the progress they're making, hopefully improve a little bit, it should be okay. Going on to Valle Verde, this project, actually, it's done pretty well. The COVID really affected this one, but it looks really, really good. And it looks like we actually were planning on doing some punch lists in December 15th. Unfortunately, because of these folks from out of town, I really don't want to mention names, but there's a Phoenix valves, is the valves that control the airflow in the air conditioning and also on the hoods. They can't come and test them. So that kind of set us back a little bit. We're still making pretty good progress. The main area, okay, there's a couple other exterior shots. As you can tell, it's beautiful. Most of the landscape is done. I believe we're about 85% or something like that. On the left side, you can see the flexitorium. I took this picture I took these pictures last week, last Thursday, I believe. And they were actually moving in the flexitorium, the bleachers. They finally showed up. And these were some of the components that they will be erecting up against this wall here. It's not unlike what I just showed you a minute ago for mission, but obviously they're bigger. And there's already the projection screens, a lot of facilities in. On the right side here, you have the lab, and the lab on the 3rd floor, and they pretty much finished. This is on the 3rd floor, and the corridor. The corridors, the 2nd and 3rd floor are pretty much finished as well. All we're lacking now is the 1st floor, because they're still working on that logo, which I've been telling you about. On the right side, this is the most unfinished area inside the building. This is really what was in the critical path to get done by August 15th. They did get a little bit set back. You can tell they already got the glass rails, which look very nice, but they still, you can tell just by looking at the ceiling and everything, there's still some work that needs to be done. If I was guessing, based on what I see, probably middle of January, we actually planned the furniture to move in the middle of January. So we feel fairly confident that middle of January, unless we get tripped up, because a couple of these subs that didn't have enough people were flooring and what the other one was, the towel guys. So, and I'm sorry, I said correctly, the millwork, the flooring and millwork guys. They're not sending enough people, but even with that, I feel confident by middle January they should be done. And then really all we're lacking is the low voltage, which, by the way, if you recall at the last meeting, I believe there was 95 days. We reduced that considerably, and those days will probably won't start until January 1st. So I at this point, I would say from 95 or probably more like 55, 60 days. But we will know for sure in January. So to wrap up Valle Verde, as you can tell, even commissioning is well underway, which in other projects, commissioning is actually running a little behind. And this one's actually running on time, based on given where they are. And so we still anticipate the substation completion March 22nd. Again, that date includes the low voltage, the time beginning for adding those boxes that I showed you last week, and basically route it all to the IT rooms. So here's the schedule. We feel still pretty confident on the May 26th date. And nothing has really changed since the last meeting. As far as the invoicing, you can tell it's pretty much online to get there by the time we get to the project. You can see here, if you follow that line, you'll probably hit even maybe in February. So we're looking okay as far as the billing. Same thing here with the Escort. Going back to incidents, we're nearly 100,000 hours and no new incidents. We've been very blessed on this project in terms of the people getting hurt, and so from that standpoint, we're doing well. As far as the schedule, these are the same slides I showed you last time. Nothing changed. And as far as the bond budget update, there is one change I kind of like to let you know, so at least you get an idea of what we're doing. So Valle Verde PPC is already closed. And so what I started doing, actually, the EPCC actually already closed Valle Verde. I haven't closed my Valle Verde budget because I still want to compare it to the EPCC budget. But in the meantime, I've moved, you can see where this arrow is. I moved the contingency for Valle Verde with the approval of Ms. Chauncey, obviously. I moved it into this district expenditure allowance. So any funds, as we close these projects, any funds remaining, they will be moving to this expenditure allowance, and nothing will be spent from that line item unless it's approved by EPCC. So that money now is being set aside as we close the project. So far, I'm going to pause here for a minute. Any questions? No? Okay. Moving on with the action items. And so this is a cancel upgraded market borders action item. I'll let Pam, do you want to read this proposed action item, or would you like me to? I can go ahead and read it.
I'll go ahead and read it here. It's item 6.1. Mr. Pettis will request the Board of Trustees to formally rescind the approval of the action item at the July 29, 2020 Facilities and Finance Committee meeting, consisting of the approval of a proposed change order PCO to HB Construction in an amount not to exceed $108,462 for upgraded marker boards, Idea Interactive Dry Erase by Parallax for the Valle Verde Classroom Lab Building Construction Project. The previously approved marker boards are not the boards selected by EPCC.
Thank you, Pam. So this, if you recall, back in July, I gave you this presentation about these great boards. They're basically almost like an iPad, a giant iPad. And back in August, I came back and told you, hey, we're going to have to rescind this because turns out this is not what the deans wanted at all. This is a very costly item. And so what we did, we realized, and I'll take the blame for that, that really we should have vetted this a lot better. I kind of rushed it into that board presentation. And so what we did this time, because we certainly didn't want to be embarrassing regarding to do this again, we actually sat down with the leagues. We have long discussions with them. We actually ordered samples of boards. They're trying to decide between low gloss and high gloss. And so we had those samples installed in the building, and all the faculty came, not all the faculty, some faculty and the deans, they all came and they tested the boards and saw which ones they liked better. And they finally made a decision on the high gloss boards, which it turns out that they're $12,748.26. So basically, we need to cancel, because we're talking about basically two different things. This is not the boards that they're getting for 12,000 is not the boards that y'all approved. So we needed to cancel this board item, and I'm sure you're okay with that. It is a big difference. So Pam, if you will, please. Any questions? Okay, Pam.
I believe I've already read the item, so at this time, it would be up to a motion from a board.
Hi, this is Christine. I make a motion to rescind item 6.1.
This is John Uxer, I second.
Are there any questions? Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez,
Aye.
Mrs. Robles,
Aye.
Dr. Graham, Dr. Graham, Ms. Naheda,
Aye.
Ms. Pena,
Aye.
Mr. Haggerty, Mr. Haggerty, Mr. Haggerty, can you hear us?
It says,
Okay, you voted aye?
aye.
Okay. We're still not being able to hear Dr. Graham. So the next item is item 6.2. Mr. Pettis will request the Board of Trustees to formally approve a proposed consultant change order, PCCO, to Park Hill Smith and Cooper Incorporated in an amount of $56,265 to cover the costs associated with additional construction administrative services for the Rio Grande Classroom Lab Garage Building Construction Project.
Thank you, Pam. So currently we have a contract with PSC that took into account substantial completion of August 25th, 2020. Given the new contractor schedule and their substantial completion of February 26th. Now, mind you, this is what they're saying they're going to be. It's 6 months. So PSC felt compelled to request for additional funds. And one of the things I want to make sure I can clarify is that some things, no matter how long a project takes, you always have to do them. And there's no extra work. It's always the same RFIs. Issuing ASIs is always going to be the same thing, reviewing submittals. When they look at the shop drawings, it's always going to be the same amount of shop drawings. The punch list will be the same. So there's a lot of work, even though that the project got extended, they're still going to have to do it. It's not additional time they're going to take them. However, when there's a time extension, they're going to have to attend more weekly project meetings. They're going to have to do weekly site observations more often. They have to write more field reports. Gonna review monthly pay apps. Hello? Okay, more pay apps, site visits for structural, mechanical, electrical, and site observations as well. So there is additional work. And on top of that, there's also, and this is not related to the time extension. This is just additional work that we're going ahead and including in this request that they had to do that was above and beyond what the contract requires. I may be some background noise. I don't know. Is everybody, there's somebody, I hope y'all can hear me okay. So there's 3 items that they're charging us, and so they're adding that to the request. This is about $10,000. The other is about $46,000, but it all adds up to the $56,265, which it pushes over $50,000, and so we're respectfully requesting your approval for this amount to cover this scope of work. So any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I don't understand why we have to pay if they're the ones behind.
Well, they're not behind. The contractor is behind. And so,
I thought you said they were 6 months behind.
well, yeah, the contractor, the 6 months is from what their contract call as far as contract administration. It takes them through August 25th. That's what their contract says. Now the contractor can back and say, hey, we're behind. We're actually not going to be done till February 23rd. So that's 6 months. But the architect is sitting here, well, it's not our fault, and they're behind. So somebody needs to pay us for that additional time that we're putting in there. That's added to the contract. Did that make sense?
No.
This is John Uxer. I understand, but if the contractor is behind, how do we have to pay for the fact that the contractor's behind?
I'm sorry, Mr. X, I missed the last part of the question.
It comes back to, you said that the PSC is now going beyond their contract and they want compensation for going beyond. They're going beyond their contractual time because
Yes,
the
sir.
contractor's delayed. So we
Right.
need to pay for the contractor being delayed, causing PSC to have additional work. And why do we pay for what the contractor is causing?
Is unfortunately, and maybe Francisco could pitch in on here, unfortunately, the contract between the architect is between the architect and the owner. So if the contractor gets behind, our only, to my knowledge, our only recourse is liquidated damages to try to get some of that money back. Our contract with the contractor does not give us the leeway to back charge the contractor for an architectural fee. Francisco, are you on? Would you mind to kind of clarify that? I'm pretty sure I'm right.
I am on. I would have to take a look at the contract, Mr. Pettis, to see if that's the only recourse. But
Yes,
I
sir.
do agree with you that there should be a provision for liquidated damages. I think the real question would be here if there's a way that we could externalize that cost, caused presumably by the contractor's delay to the contractor. And that's what I would need to take a look at when I review the contract.
Okay, thank you.
So can we postpone this item until you look at the contract?
Excuse me?
You may.
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
I said, I think we should postpone this item until he looks at the contract and see if there's some way we can get somebody to pay for this $56,000.
Well, I'll ask the council to confirm or not, but my understanding is that even if the contractor pays for it, it will be through a change order. And so the contractor cannot pay contractually, that I'm sure, the contractor cannot pay directly the architect. for that money. The contractor is going to have to reimburse the owner for that expense, and the owner pays for the architect. So in either way, EPCC will have to pay the architect, and if it is decided that in the contract, the contractor needs to reimburse EPCC, they'll reimburse EPCC. They cannot pay directly to the architects for those funds. That I'm pretty sure.
So you're basically saying we got to pay the money and hope that we can get some money somewhere else.
Yes. I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know how else. I know for a fact that the contractor cannot pay the architect anything. So if anything, it will be as a reimbursement. Now, you can postpone this, but that could create also a potential issue because they're running out of money on the funds that we have available now to pay the architect.
It seems like they're doing all the screwing up, but we got to keep paying. I don't know. I don't understand the concept.
Well, the architect is not screwing up. Actually, the architect is doing pretty good. They are probably one of the best architects we have.
Okay.
So,
So who's running out of money? The architect or the contractor?
I'm sorry?
Who's running out of money?
Oh, the architect, because they had the contract, the way the fee was structured was in such a way that they would be paid through August. And now we are in November, and even though they cut short the invoicing, they're really down to $2,000 now because there's not been additional funding.
I don't know. Screwy way of doing things, the way I look at it. Do we have a motion on this item? Or any more questions?
I have a comment. This is Mel Herrera. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, okay. So I think, again, part of the situation here is about $10,000 of this are additional services that are shown on your screen that have nothing to do with extension of time. So this is additional work that has been requested by the project for the architect. That's $10,000 that we would have to probably do another proposition to the board to approve or accept. But that's $10,000. The remaining amount of money, $46,000, referred to the delay, as Paulo explained, of the contractor. There's other things that we can do. We have certainly entertained them internally with staff of the community college, and we discussed it with the architect. We could mitigate that loss by reducing services from the architect to some degree. You know, there's some things that we might get away, and it's all about risk, I guess. So that I could just propose or tell the board that if you guys think that the $46,000 is too much, maybe we can come back and see if we can reduce that fee in consultation with the architect once more. Otherwise, I guess the only thing that the architect would do is if they're not going to get paid, they stop helping or participating in the contract. Whether it's the fault of the contractor or of the college, well, that's a little bit of how the construction works, and maybe the attorney can provide additional explanation on how these contracts are structured in a future date.
Dr.
So-
Serrata, what are your thoughts?
So thank you, Ms. Nahida. So I certainly understand the board's concern with regards to the contractor's delay causing a bill from the architect to the college. Understandably, I certainly understand Mr. Herrera indicating that the architect is employed by the college, not by the contractor. I'd want legal counsel's input on any kind of recourse that we may have, and I know that would require Mr. Ortega to go back and review the contract that we had and what kind of damages we could collect from the contractor. I guess the notion would be if we finished early, would the architect reimburse us?
Huh. Yeah.
And I would imagine the answer is no. And so that really is the concern. But I hear what they're saying. The action item as it's listed, what I would recommend to the board would be revising the action item and covering the 10,000 plus that Mr. Herrera just described, which were an extension of services, and then the remaining 46,000 that we would wait to take action on that until Mr. Ortega had an opportunity to review the contract and ensure that the college is protected.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I'm
we have a
going to
mo-
make a motion, but it's not based on that recommendation. And if I could just give my thoughts. So my motion is going to be to postpone this item until we get more information. I don't feel that there was enough background or information to even make a decision on whether even just to allocate the 10K and leave the remaining 46K there. I just don't feel that that's been fleshed out. I myself don't feel comfortable making a vote or a decision based on just the presentation and the way this kind of got rolled out. It just wasn't enough for me to make that decision. And so definitely would like for Mr. Ortega to take a look at the contract to see what's there. I'd like to see a better, I guess, overview and information on the justification for that. I think that there's a disconnect in terms of what the expectation is, and certainly understand that there is a expectation and a duty, if you will, for the college to allocate a specific amount of funds, but I am not understanding that and have not been at least provided that information to make that decision. And so my motion at this time would be to postpone this item. I'm not prepared to vote in support of this item at this time. That's my motion.
This is Juanina Nájera, and I second.
Any other discussion? Call the question, Pam.
Mr. Uxer,
Aye.
Ms. Sanchez, I'm sorry, Ms. Sanchez, I didn't hear you.
Pam, aye.
Thank you. Mrs. Robles, Mrs. Robles, Mr. Haggerty,
Aye.
Ms. Nájera,
Aye.
Ms. Pena,
Aye.
Dr. Graham. I believe she's still having some difficulties with her sound. Okay. The next item is item 5.2. Mr. Rick Lobato, Executive Director of the Physical Plant, and Ms. Josette Shaughnessy, Vice President of Financial and Administrative Operations, will provide an update on capital projects.
Okay, is Ms. Shaughnessy or Mr.
Good afternoon, Mr. Haggerty, Dr. Serrata, members of the board and our listening audience. If I could just take a quick minute to bring up the presentations, I will do that right now. I need to see where it is. Let's see, here we go. Okay, are you able to see this?
Yes.
Thank you. Very good. Again, good afternoon, Mr. Haggerty, Dr. Serrata, members of the board and our listening audience. The purpose of today's presentation is to update the board on the progress of construction projects since our last presentation to the board this past July. We know that we have limited time, and so we are trying to have a short agenda that will take into consideration this limited amount of time that we have with you this afternoon. So we will cover the slides as concisely as possible and respond to any questions that you may have. When I turn it over to Mr. Lobato, you can pause at the end of a slide and see if you have any questions. So before I turn it over to Mr. Lobato, This is the agenda. Very quickly, we're going to go over as a refresher of the funding of the capital project. Mr. Lobato will talk about the current funded projects that have been completed and in progress, and then also giving you a status of the pending funding projects. So as a quick refresher, funding of our current and future projects is provided for a variety of funding sources. In the annual operating budget, we do set aside about a little bit over $1 million, and that is really to address our ongoing maintenance of facilities, mechanical systems, day-to-day operation. It's certainly, and some minor renovation, but it certainly cannot address some of the bigger projects that we have that are really fall between the minor projects and, of course, the master plan projects that are funded by the bonds. So what we also do every year is we replenish our project reserve fund, and that project reserve fund is replenished at the end of the fiscal year. If we have budget surpluses, we will allocate so much to the unrestricted fund balance to kind of supplement our fund balance and to grow it. And also any difference we put into the project reserve fund. Currently, we have an unallocated balance, about $5.6 million, and this is mostly thanks to the influx of funds surpluses that we had at the end of this fiscal year. This is one time. This is just a refresher here. This is one-time funding. So this funding cannot go for continuous type of funding like salaries and annual operation. It's one time. So once it's exhausted, if you don't replenish it, then that balance goes away. So it's very important that we do bring up to date our project reserve fund with budget surpluses. We also have an annual budgeted transfer from the auxiliary fund, a vehicle registration fund, and some of that goes for preventive maintenance fund. Mr. Lobato budgets those funds on an annual basis. And our parking lot renovation also is addressed with $250,000 from the vehicle registration fund. That's why we have a vehicle registration fee, is to make sure we maintain our parking lots. We also have savings from completed projects that are returned to the project reserve fund. In just a little while, Mr. Lobato is going to give you an example of projects that came under budget, and that is returned to the project reserve fund. And as you heard from Mr. Perez just a while ago, is we will have some money in contingency. Hopefully, we're counting on Mr. Perez to actually give us those savings so we can allocate those savings from the unexpended 2016 bond proceeds to projects. So at this time, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Lobato, who will cover the rest of the presentation by addressing all the projects. So Mr. Lobato, you are on.
Thank you, Josette. And I want to thank the board for this opportunity to showcase a lot of the construction projects the maintenance group is working on right now. Construction and maintenance. Currently, we have the Rio Grande fire alarm replacement. That project has reached substantial completion last month. We have a few pending punch list items, but we should be complete in December. That consisted of replacing the fire alarm at the aged fire alarm system at the Rio Grande campus. Now we're up to par there. Via Verde campus stairwell cladding. That is the repair of the exterior stairwells. Via Verde campus, a lot of them were cracked and just did not look good in need of repair. A little TLC. We took care of that last month as well. Via Verde campus transportation training center HVAC modifications. This is part of the master plan, but I wanted to bring this up because the mechanical engineer, RBM, really stepped up on this. They made an error. The HVAC system was a little loud and the instructors were having a hard time speaking over it. So RBM went out there on their own, redesigned it, and paid for the modifications that need to be done out of their pocket. So there was no cost to EPCC. Rarely happens that a mechanical engineer will step up and do that. Mission de El Paso. Yes, sir.
You said he stepped up with funds out of their pocket. Can you just put a number to that, please?
I'm sorry, I didn't have it there. My apology. I thought I did. It's $35,000.
We ought to think about, Dr. Serrata, we ought to think about sending them a thank you note.
Yes, sir.
I can take care of that, sir. Mission Del Paso Law Enforcement Lighting Controls Replacement. This is the lighting controls at the shooting range. They need to have different lighting conditions for training. We replaced their controls last month, so project completed. Okay, I want to take the opportunity also to show you some of these projects. I know these presentations get a little tedious, and actually Paulo shows so many pictures, I thought I'd do the same. This is the C building cafeteria. I don't know if any of you remember, but that area used to be carpet, and that carpet was about 30 years old, stained, everything. So we went ahead, redesigned it with vinyl tile. The deans picked this pattern. I think it looks gorgeous. We've completed that project. We're going to move on to do the adjacent auditorium. We'll be working on that this month and next month. Should have that completed by January. Sorry, slides are taking a little. Okay, the next project's also at Valle Verde. It's the Deportes Drive road repair. I brought this up back in July where we first started it. The picture on the left shows you the condition of the road. There you can see it's got a lot of alligator cracks, and this is probably one of the better portions of the road. The rest had a lot of potholes. What the design called for is actually go down 24 inches and build that back up with proper subgrade and drainage. The slide on the far right shows what the project looks like completed. I'm sorry, here we go. Okay, last slide here is the same area looking from the opposite side. This is shortly after we did a flood test trying to test out the drainage system. As you can see, there's no puddles there. The drainage system works fine. We've actually completed landscaping on the island as well. This area looks beautiful, and we'll continue to do projects like this as we can. Valle Verde also, this is Makerspace build out. This project was started, I think, in April of last year. We completed in October. This is it is just a showcase. These pictures don't do the area justice. We've moved on to the Trans Mountain Campus. We replaced the roof out at Trans Mountain. This is a good example of where we budgeted $75,000. We got a pretty good price on this roof change it. So we have quite a bit of savings there. That will be going back to the general fund. Okay, there we go. Rio Grande campus, we have the chiller replacement. As you all recall, past summer that chiller failed. I wanted to show you how large that unit is, and the fact that we had to take it and move it on top of the second floor and install it in the mechanical room there. Chiller is up and running, and we haven't had a problem since then. This is a Trans Mountain campus, early college, high school, portable restroom installation. We had a budget of $100,000. We completed the project for $88,000. This was completed in September. Early college, high school loves the area. It's really gorgeous. Turned out real nice. This is something I really wanted to show you. This is also at Trans Mountain. Some of our restrooms, as you can see on the left, have a lot to be desired. We've had a lot of repairs done. It's hard to get tile that matches when you're looking at buildings that are 20 years plus. So they start looking like this. Our idea was to go in here and renovate. We had budgeted initially to replace all the tile. We were approached by a contractor who had a different method where it's an epoxy coating over the existing tile. As you can see, it comes out looking brand new. Not only that, but it's totally waterproof. So in order to clean these, it makes it much easier. We can actually go in there and high pressure spray them. And this has helped out with disinfecting as well. One of the greater things about this is look at the budget. We budgeted $40,000. It came in at $24,000. A lot of savings there. We plan to use this and other restrooms throughout the campuses. Mission Del Paso Early College High School chiller replacement, that failed earlier in the summer. We had to rush to get this in. We completed in October. Okay, we're going to talk now a little bit of some of the projects we have in progress. District-wide projects first. We have the classroom furniture replacement. We have a budget of $600,000. We have ordered, and actually the furniture for Mission Del Paso has arrived. We will be installing it this December. Trans Mountain, we're selecting and getting ready to order it. You'll be seeing a board item on that soon. After we're completed that, we'll move on to Valle Verde. We also have district-wide parking signage replacement. That's all the parking signs, stop signs, everything. We've completed Northwest and Trans Mountain. We're in the progress of working. Valle Verde is currently in progress. And I want to apologize to you because I forgot to list a district-wide project we have here, and that's the wayfinding or the monument signs. That is also in progress. We'll be replacing those monument signs probably over the break. When we come back in January, we should have them up at Valle Verde and Mission Del Paso. Valle Verde campus, we have, Rio Grande campus, we have the retail pharmacy lab renovation. That's where the design is complete. We've got a job order contract price of $78,000. We'll be bringing that to you in the January board. Valle Verde campus ATC boiler replacement. That project is currently in progress and will be completed this month. Valle Verde campus ATC roof HVAC unit replacement. We have 2 units there that are 30+ years old. They're in dire need of replacement. We've got a purchase order in progress and should be starting that project shortly. At Valle Verde campus also, we have the C building additional elevator design. This project has gone out to Manhattan Motor Architecture. They're currently taking a look at the project to figure out the best way to approach this. If you recall, the elevator at the C building had a lot of problems. Number one, it's slow and it fails a lot. It's an old elevator. So Manhattan Motor is trying to figure out the best way to approach that, whether it be to renovate the elevator, replace it, or place an additional elevator. Their task is to look at all those items and come up with prices and options for us. Valle Verde campus TTC dynamometer exhaust modifications. That's currently funded by the master plan. They're replacing the exhaust system to take care of the higher temperature exhaust that was not planned for. That's in progress. Mission Del Paso road service repair. Service road repair, apologize. That is to take care of the flooding that occurs when we get heavy rains. Moreno Cardenas is looking into that now. They will be coming up with a budget pretty soon that I'll be presenting to you guys with options as well. Presenting to the board. Northwest campus, laboratory fume hood exhaust corrections. This was funded by the master plan and it's currently in progress. This project here is the intersection between the A and B buildings. We've got a CSP in progress. We expect to go to you for board approval in January of 2021. I have this insert put here just as a reminder. The idea behind this project is to take care of the haphazard flow of traffic intersection that's causing the safety problems for pedestrians and vehicles alike. One added benefit when this is done is that we will have 7 additional parking spaces, and the area will now be ADA accessible for wheelchairs between the A and B building, which it currently does not have. This is the Northwest Campus First Year Experience Center. We initially went out, this is a 1,000 square foot addition to the Northwest Campus main building. Originally went out to job order contract on this, but the price was so high, we decided to pull that back and try a competitive seal proposal, which we'll be issuing in January 2021. The picture on the left shows you the red insert is where the 1,000 square foot addition will go. The picture on the right is the artist's conceptual of what it will look like. As you can see, when it's done, you will not be able to tell that it was an addition at all. We're really hopeful that the CSP will come through and we'll be able to afford this project. Kurt, if you recall at the, yes, sir? Oh, I thought there was a question. This is a Vive Verde campus gym, shower, and locker room renovation project. We're going to use the same process. We plan to use the same process that we used at Trans Mountain on this tile. So we'll get a brand new look to the whole thing. It is also 30 years plus, so the area does need a facelift, a dire facelift. The next slide will show you the locker room area, which we plan to remove some of the lockers, put some more modern lockers, and give this whole area a nice look. We're currently awaiting the job order contract price for negotiation. We should have that this month as well. This slide here shows us the projects that were placed on hold in April of 2020. Some of these, actually, I think one of them was actually on the board agenda. That's the Instructional Service Center. We're recommending at this point that we probably keep them all on hold. ASC A and B stairwell modifications, we have a total of $80,000 set aside for that. And because of current conditions and the fact that it's a want rather than a need, I'm recommending we keep those on hold or possibly even close them. The Trans Mountain additional landscaping, if you recall at Trans Mountain, when they put the addition in, there was an area there that was left unlandscaped. That project was also placed on hold in April of this year. And to be quite honest, I'm going to recommend we leave it on hold because the area is coming back quite nicely on its own. I don't think we need to go in there and spend $110,000 there. The Vive Verde TTC epoxy floor, at first, when we first opened that, the instructors were hoping that we'd go ahead and install an epoxy floor. After working in there for the few months they feel that's no longer a real need for them. They're getting along fine. So I recommend we go ahead and close that as well. Vive Verde Instructional Service Center and faculty office renovation. Now that is one project we would like to move forward with. It's just the timing is so good for that. We currently have limited occupancy at the A building. So it would have, if we went ahead with that right now, we wouldn't be displacing anybody and we wouldn't be interrupting anybody with the construction. And it's in dire need. The ISC or Instructional Service Center at Vive Verde is the largest one in the district and is also the oldest. So it's in dire need of a renovation, plus the fact that we have an unused area there that used to be an administrative area that we're going to remodel into 8 faculty offices and a large conference room. So my recommendation is that the board allow us to proceed with this. The next 2 projects are KTSM, Architects Project Development, and the renovation. The project development is on hold because currently we don't have any staff on campus. And we do need the staff to physically walk through the buildings and work with us to decide how we're going to remodel this area. So until we get staff back, I suggest we keep that on hold. Hopefully that will be soon. Any questions on this slide? Okay. Excuse me while we get this changed.
You don't have this, Rick?
I don't have the new slide up, Josette.
Oh.
I have a question on that last slide, please.
Very well.
Are you putting that item on the agenda so we can vote on it?
The item was actually on the agenda in April. We plan to bring it back with your approval. We would like to bring it back in January.
Well, my question is, do you have the funds?
Yes, sir. All those projects are currently funded. Josette?
So I would assume
Yes,
it would,
sorry. Yes, Mr. Haggerty, all of these projects are currently funded. In other words, the budget has been allocated, and it's all one-time kind of funding. Back in April, there was some concern about the budget, and so the board felt like it was wise to postpone some of these projects. And the Instructional Service Center Faculty Offices renovation was on the agenda to be approved by the board. But certainly, under the circumstances, the board felt like it was wise to wait to see how the budget panned out before we expended those kind of funds.
okay. All right, so you have to bring it back to the board.
Yes, sir.
We also have to contact, we also have contacted the vendor because obviously the conditions have changed. And so the vendor is going to get back to us in about 2 to 3 weeks to kind of review the scope of the work again and see if anything has changed for them.
Okay, thank you.
If they, I might add on there, if the vendor decides not to honor his bid, which he may, we might have to go back out for CSP on that.
Well, you're saying it needs to be done. It's over 30 years old, and you say this is the time to do it because nobody's there. I assume it would be to our advantage to take care of that right now.
I agree, sir.
We do agree. Thank you, sir.
All right.
And now, do you see this, Rick? Do you see this last? Slide?
Unfortunately, said I do not.
Mr. Akers, do you have any idea why it's not advancing? Because I do see it on my screen.
I'm not sure, ma'am, unless your computer is frozen.
It keeps beeping at me. As muted.
Well, Ms. Shaughnessy, I know that I can see it, so I'm imagining that members of the board can see that the pending projects, that these are also funded for fiscal year 21. And you see that they're across the district. The ASC Building A is the switchgear removal and transformer replacement, which would be completed in phases. We have it budgeted at $200,000. The ASC Building B, the cooling tower replacement at $450,000. We have submitted that for CSP, competitive sealed proposals. The Trans Mountain campus, a cooling tower replacement. We have it budgeted at $260,000, and that would be submissions for competitive sealed proposals. The Via Verde, the transformer and cable replacement would be completed in phases at a budget of $920,000. The Trans Mountain electrical loop repair and the transformer replacement, also broken into 2 phases at $460,000. And then for the Rio Grande campus, the H building mechanical room stair replacement, which would be $100,000. And we're awaiting our JOC a proposal on that.
Dr. Sarata, I do have
yes,
it up.
Okay. If I missed anything, Mr. Lobato, in that, please jump in.
That was
No,
perfect.
sir.
From now on,
Every now and then I learn. No, every now and then I learn from the experts. I do want the board, before Mr. Lobato completes, Mr. Chair Haggerty, Mr. Uxer, you and other members of the board have brought this up as well. We take the existing campuses and the facilities that we have on our existing campuses and the maintenance and continuing upgrade of those very seriously. And we wanted the board to see, in addition to all of the projects that ECM is facilitating for the college, that there is lots of other work that is continuing. What Mr. Lobato reviewed with the board, there's been $1.4 million of completed projects, an additional $1.1 million in progress, projects in progress, $885,000 that has been funded but not started, and then $3.1 million that is funded and scheduled to begin in fiscal 21. So all told, that's $6.5 million of resources that we have put in and budgeted for throughout under Ms. Shaughnessy's leadership, and then Mr. Lobato and his team contracting these projects out. We take the maintenance of our current facilities very seriously. We understand that those are square footage that we will need to use for decades to come. And we really wanted the board to see the kinds of projects that are led internally by Mr. Lobato and his staff, and that are budgeted for by Ms. Shaughnessy and her team as well. But Mr. Lobato, please continue on the physical plant piece.
Well, thank you, Dr. Serrata.
Dr. Serrata and Mr. Lobato, I do have a quick question. I think it's just an administrative requirement, but if these have been funded and they put on hold, is it a requirement they have to be scheduled for a board meeting and then being brought forward? In other words, we can't just immediately identify that as an opportunity now that has been funded, and we cannot bring it up today because it hasn't been posted. Is that correct?
I believe that is correct, sir.
It is, Mr. Uxer. And we would want to bring these back to the board. We certainly understood as the pandemic impacted everyone in our community. We understood putting a hold on some projects, but we are bringing back the projects that we believe that we can move forward with, that are needed, that are highly needed, and that we have the resources to move forward. Again, as Ms. Shaughnessy indicated, these are one-time expenditures that are in the budget. These are not reoccurring costs. And so we will bring them back to the board as we believe that we have the capacity to contract out and to get them done in a timely manner.
Dr. Serrata, can you?
Thank you. I appreciate that. My only reason I bring that up is that I wish there were a procedure which we could proceed with those projects, like the one where nobody is going to be available. We wouldn't impact. It's approved. It's needed. It's unfortunate that it's just a legal administrative requirement that we have to put it on a piece of paper and wait until next time. When it'd really be nice if we could do it today, but I understand that we need to go by the process. So that's the only reason I brought it up.
Yes, sir. Dr. Graham, you were asking?
Oh, you could hear me.
I could. It's good to hear your voice.
Well, that's good, sir. First of all, I really appreciate the technology people doing whatever they can to work in the situation, trying to connect me. Thank you. But I wanted to make sure that we note that in years past, before you came, there was a lot that needed to be done that was not getting done. So the maintenance of the buildings was not, being done as seriously as we are now. They were focusing on buildings and repair. So we might be paying a little bit more for a while, but we'll get those buildings up to par.
Dr. Graham, the credit goes to our team. They've done a great job. I can't thank Mr. Lobato and Ms. Shaughnessy, their teams, and the work that they do. So I concur in echoing the kudos to them.
Well, we want to thank you, Dr. Serrata, and I do want to extend a thank you to the board, because not every facility has people that are willing to invest in the deferred maintenance of these buildings, and that's what we're currently doing. We're chipping away at all the deferred maintenance. And by doing all these projects, little by little, we're making everything a little bit better and reducing that deferred maintenance. So we keep that in mind, and we couldn't do it without you guys approving these, without the board approving these projects and keeping us moving forward.
And if I may, I also would like to add that Mr. Lobato and his team have been extremely busy, since March, because they've really taken advantage of a bad situation here with COVID, turned it into an opportunity for them to actually address some maintenance that we were showing on this very last slide. And the staff, because obviously they are essential employees. I mean, they cannot do this kind of work from home. They have to be on premises, and they observe obviously all the CDC guidelines, but they've been very busy addressing some ongoing maintenance in terms of painting, in terms of lighting, in terms of just ongoing maintenance that wouldn't have been possible with obviously more people on campus. So Mr. Lobato, kudos to you and your team, and thank you so much for having our facilities really up to par when our students return. So some students are going to return to new facilities, and the students are going to return also to our older facilities that have been somewhat refreshed. So we do appreciate that.
Yeah, Mr. Lobato,
Yes, sir.
Just want to tell you that us guys appreciate that. Thank you.
I just go back to what I said. This is a team effort. My crew is able to do the work because you guys are supporting us and allowing us to do so.
So we girls also appreciate it as well. I was just going to make one comment. The one comment I was going to make, I found this presentation extremely helpful. Thank you. It's always good to get an overview and a refresher on where we are with some of these capital improvement projects. So I definitely appreciate that. The only question that I had, and I don't know, I mean, you all are the expert on this, but you know, when we consider these capital improvement projects and we look at them, is it helpful that perhaps during budget time that we look at that and we evaluate that? I don't, and forgive me, I don't remember if we do that during budget time, but just to maybe get that snapshot of where we are, where we'll be looking at for that coming year. That's just a consideration if maybe we could do that each budget cycle so that we know and we can anticipate what's coming. I guess this is helpful to know, being where we may be with the pandemic and what's been on hold and what considerations that the college has to have gone through in order to make the assessment whether to move forward on something like this. But I also think that at budget, it's probably helpful to do that as well. That's just a comment, a consideration. You all know best how to handle that, but just a thought. I think in my head, it helps to kind of see where we would be going for that particular fiscal year.
Absolutely, Ms. Sanchez. We totally concur with your. I would think that Dr. Serrata concurs with that. That's why we try to go to the board and give you an update on projects, because they are very costly and they do require a significant amount of resources. And on an annual basis, we do review all projects, and some of them we know we're able to afford, and others are so costly that we would need obviously something like a bond issue to address those. But we've been able to address a lot of projects over the years.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Go to our regular board meeting, is that correct, Pam?
Yes, sir. We'll need to adjourn this meeting and then we'll have a few minutes.
I hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion made.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, what time do we have to be back, Doc? 5:30?
5:30, Chair.
Okay, and they're gonna send us the new number and everything for us to hook on to?
Should be in your calendar already.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, members of the board.